The life and sad ending of Chuck Berry. Chuck Berry was an American singer, songwriter and guitarist, and one of the pioneers of rock and roll music. Nicknamed the father of rock and roll, Berry refined and developed rhythm and blues into the major elements that made rock and roll distinctive, with songs such as Maybellene, 1955, Roll Over Beethoven, 1956, Rock and Roll Music, 1957, and Johnny B. Goode, writing lyrics that focused on teen life and consumerism, and developing a music style that included guitar solos and showmanship. Berry was a major influence on subsequent rock music. Born into a middle-class African-American family in St. Louis, Berry had an interest in music from an early age and gave his first public performance at Sumner High School. While still a high school student, he was convicted of armed robbery and was sent to a reformatory, where he was held from 1944 to 1947. After his release, Berry settled into married life and worked at an automobile assembly plant. By early 1953, influenced by the guitar riffs and showmanship techniques of the blues musician T-Bone Walker, Berry began performing with the Johnny Johnson Trio. His break came when he traveled to Chicago in May 1955 and met Muddy Waters, who suggested he contact Leonard Chess, of Chess Records. With Chess, he recorded Maybellene, Berry's adaptation of the country song Ida Red, which sold over 1 million copies, reaching #1 on Billboard magazine's Rhythm and Blues chart. By the end of the 1950s, Berry was an established star, with several hit records and film appearances and a lucrative touring career. He had also established his own St. Louis nightclub, Berry's Club Bandstand. He was sentenced to 3 years in prison in January 1962 for offenses under the Mann Act. He had transported a 14-year-old girl across state lines. After his release in 1963, Berry had several more hits, including No Particular Place to Go, You Never Can Tell, and Nadine. But these did not achieve the same success, or lasting impact, of his 1950s songs, and by the 1970s he was more in demand as a nostalgic performer, playing his past hits with local backup bands of variable quality. In 1972 he reached a new level of achievement when a rendition of My Ding-a-Ling became his only record to top the charts. His insistence on being paid in cash led in 1979 to a 4-month jail sentence and community service for tax evasion. Berry was among the first musicians to be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame on its opening in 1986. He was cited for having laid the groundwork for not only a rock and roll sound but a rock and roll stance. Berry is included in several of Rolling Stone magazine's greatest of all time lists. He was ranked 5th on its 2004 and 2011 lists of the 100 greatest artists of all time. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame's 500 songs that shaped rock and roll includes 3 of Berry's, Johnny B. Goode, Maybellene, and Rock and Roll Music. Berry's Johnny B. Goode is the only rock and roll song included on the Voyager Golden Record. On July 29, 2011, Berry was honored in a dedication of an 8-foot, in-motion Chuck Berry statue in the Delmar Loop in St. Louis, right across the street from Blueberry Hill. Berry said, "It's glorious, I do appreciate it to the highest, no doubt about it. That sort of honor is seldom given out. But I don't." The rock critic Robert Christgau considers Berry the greatest of the rock and rollers, and John Lennon said, "If you tried to give rock and roll another name, you might call it Chuck Berry." When asked what caused the explosion of the popularity of rock and roll that took place in the 1950s, with him and a handful of others, mainly him, Berry said, "Well, actually they began to listen to it, you see, because certain stations played certain music. The music that we, the blacks, played, the cultures were so far apart, we would have to have a PlayStation in order to play it. The cultures begin to come together, and you begin to see one another's vein of life, Then the music. Among the honors Berry received were the Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award in 1984 and the Kennedy Center Honors in 2000. He was ranked 7th on Time magazine's 2009 list of the 10 best electric guitar players of all time. On May 14, 2002, Berry was honored as one of the first BMI icons at the 50th Annual BMI Pop Awards. He was presented the award along with BMI affiliates Bo Diddley and Little Richard. In August 2014, Berry was made a laureate of the Polar Music Prize. Berry is included in several of Rolling Stone magazine's greatest of all-time lists. In September 2003, the magazine ranked him number 6 in its list of the 100 greatest guitarists of all time. In November, his compilation album The Great 28 was ranked 21st in Rolling Stone's 500 Greatest Albums of All Time. 100. In March 2004, Berry was ranked 5th on the list of The Immortals, the 100 Greatest Artists of All Time. In December 2004, 6 of his songs were included in Rolling Stone's 500 Greatest Songs of All Time: Johnny B. Goode, Maybellene, Roll Over Beethoven, Rock and Roll Music, Sweet Little 16 and Brown-Eyed Handsome Man. In June 2008, his song Johnny B. Goode was ranked first in the 100 Greatest Guitar Songs of All Time. On March 18, 2017, Berry was found unresponsive at his home near Wentzville, Missouri. Berry's funeral was held on April 9, 2017, at the Pageant, in Berry's hometown of St. Louis. One of Berry's attorneys estimated that his estate was worth $50 million, including $17 million in music rights. Berry's music publishing accounted for $13 million of the estate's value. Goodbye, Chuck Berry. Thank you for watching.